This is We the Sales Engineers Podcast, show 170.
Welcome to We the SEs Podcast, the show for sales engineers by sales engineers with your host, Ramsey Majaba.
What's up, SE Nation or SE family? Welcome back to another episode. So, it's a solo show, and I'm in a bit of a mood. So, this is going to be kind of a rant. So, hopefully, it'll be a short rant, not too long. And I'm here with my trusty Buble, our Canadian treasure. So, well, thanks again for joining. We're going to be talking about the 5 skills that are not as important as people say they are. And that will be the title of the show, I guess. So the 5 skills that are not as important as people say they are. And I wanted to talk about it because people tend to focus on the wrong things when they're becoming SEs. Now, a lot of these skills would be very helpful at some point in your career, but they're not the end all be all. And they are not what's going to make your career or make you a good SE. So maybe we'll start off with the first one. I am going to provide some alternatives to, instead of learning that skill, learn this skill. So let's talk about that. The number one, well, these are in no particular order, but the first one I'm going to talk about is coding. People think that they have to know coding in order to be good SEs. You do not. Most SEs do not need to know coding, mainly because you're not going to be coding. You're going to be showing stuff. You're going to be showing your the SaaS works, showing how the product works. Some companies actually they do need some customization, integration, implementation, which would require some coding, but most companies do not. You might be better off learning how to do a proper demo, show what the product would look like, show how it would help the customer. And most companies have implementation teams or customer success teams or professional services teams that do the work after you've sold the product. I try to do the minimum amount of work before selling a product, because if I'm doing coding and I'm creating complex customizations for the customer and they don't end up buying, then I just wasted a whole bunch of time. I do customize my demos. I customize my demos to what the customer would need, but I don't create new products for them. I don't do things that are not going to sell. And what I mean by that is I am not going to write 10,000 scripts for them, for at least in my company, so the customer can test a certain thing and then they don't buy. If I need to create a script to demo a script and I don't know how to code, I can go to someone from support, someone from professional services, ask for a sample script and use that, or use something that my teammates have used before. So I don't have to create everything from scratch. I may need to know a little bit of coding, but I don't need to code websites. I don't need to do a boot camp. I think that's the big thing I'm trying to get to. You don't need to go and do a boot camp to become an SE. You can do a boot camp for fun, but it's not necessarily what's going to help you become an SE, or it will not necessarily help you be a better SE if you already have a sales engineering job. So there's that. That's number one. Number two, this might be controversial. Another skill that is not as important as people say it is, and I've seen on a lot of job descriptions for sales engineers, is presentations and or public speaking. And I say it's controversial because a lot of times we have to present, but presenting would generally imply, or public speaking would imply, you're going to stand in front of a crowd of whatever and talk for half hour straight. That's a presentation, that's public speaking. But when you're doing a presentation, I really need to mute everything. But when you're doing a presentation to customers, or you're not doing a public speaking gig, you're trying to get information from them. The more you can dump all your information on your customer, it doesn't mean anything if you don't get any feedback back. So it has to be a conversation. You have to be better at doing conversations than doing presentations. I have not done a presentation in forever. And the reason I don't like to do presentations is because it's very not engaging. It's someone kind of like this. I don't. You're listening to me talk for a half hour or hopefully less today. But generally speaking, you don't want to be doing this. This is a one-way channel. But when you're with a customer, you're trying to get as much information as you can from them. Whiteboarding is a much better way of doing things. Even if you use a presentation, you have to like be able to scribble on it. And so like virtually right now we're using Zoom, Teams, WebEx. You have to find ways to allow the customer to control the presentation, add their annotations, do stuff like that. That will add a lot more value than just having the ability to present. The skills to present and perform like that are different than the skills to actually get conversations going with the customers. And the more you get conversations going with the customer, the better off you are, because you're getting information. Information is power. And what you do with that information is actually power. So try to focus on whiteboarding, asking questions. Don't just focus on the public speaking part. We don't do public speaking. When we're in advanced in our career and we have the chance to talk to people, that's great, but get those initial skills in first of asking questions, whiteboarding, having conversations, being relatable, building trust. That adds a lot more value than being able to just simply present a PowerPoint deck. I was great at doing the spray and pray methodology, which led nowhere. In the end, even if I was doing the spray and pray methodology, I tried to ask questions, but in the end, it was more, does this seem interesting to you? Versus, what are you thinking? What are your thoughts? You talk to me. We got a customer to actually, we got them to do a presentation to us to tell us how to use the equipment versus us doing a presentation for them, which is very helpful. You want the customer to do most of the talking. So try to focus on that. And that kind of ties into question number 3, or skill number 3, which people say it's an important skill, which is answering technical questions. Answering technical questions is important. What I find more important is the skill of answering technical questions with questions of your own. I've had fellow SEs answer a technical question directly, either to answer it incorrectly because they didn't understand the question, or lose a sale. Chris White talks about the qualified no, but there's so many steps between getting from answering the question to the qualified no. Customers ask, do you support this feature on product A? No, we don't. So we answer that, no, we're good, we're done, we walk away. But if you take a moment to ask, why do you want that feature? And get an answer. Maybe product A does not solve the problem, but maybe product B does. You need to have that conversation. You need to ask those questions. So answering technical questions is not the end all be all. It's asking follow-up questions. That's the more important skill that you could have, that you should have as a sales engineer. Obviously, you need to, at some point, you need to answer technical questions, but you can do that with whiteboarding. Again, a lot of people end up using PowerPoint slides, which I hate. Whiteboarding is much better. But following up, asking the technical questions, asking questions is a lot more important than answering questions, because anybody can say yes or no. Do you support this? Yes. How do you support this? Okay, let me draw this out on the board for you. Or, but asking those questions, like, why do you even need that? Maybe you don't need that at all, especially if you don't have that feature. Why do you need that? Or if you've had customers ask that question before and only to be disappointed with what they asked for, like, be careful what you wish for. Maybe you can guide them into moving on and finding something better or using something better for their testing or their whatever it is that they're doing in their lab. I said lab because I'm still focused on work, but live environment, whatever it is that you guys are selling, whatever it is that you're using, you want them to be happy with that. Skill number 4 is persuasion. I've seen that in a lot of job descriptions for sales engineers. I'm not sure why. I haven't had to persuade anybody. All the SEs that I've worked with that try to persuade people end up backfiring and it doesn't work for them. Understanding and answering their questions. We talked about it last week with Doug Brown. We talked about objection handling and trying to understand the human behind it. You don't even have to go that far. Try to understand the business case behind it. Try to understand the reasons behind their requests. Or like they're saying no. Why are they saying no? Try to understand that versus trying to convince them that the answer should be yes. So again, we're going back to asking questions, clarifying questions, digging in deeper. I think the bigger skills here is having a thick skin, because you're going to get shut down from time to time. If you have thick skin, you'll try to dig in deeper and understand why. At a minimum, you'll learn something about your product or yourself. Maybe you made a mistake. Maybe the product had this feature that couldn't do what they wanted to do. So all of that, you need to dig in deeper and try to understand. Persuasion is not something I use as an SE. It's people hate to be sold. They love to buy. So if you can solve their problem, become a trusted advisor. Persuasion is not a skill that's needed. Or maybe it is, in the sense that you've persuaded them by showing them that it works for them, but that's doing a good demo. That's asking good questions. You didn't actually convince them. You didn't persuade them of anything. I guess that's the. I don't like the use of the word. The last skill I want to talk about, and this is a pet peeve of mine, and I always have this conversation with my wife. It's multitasking. Multitasking is not a skill. It's a myth. It's a waste of time. Multitasking is equal to lack of focus. Focus is a skill. Being able to sit down and work on a demo for an hour or two, that's a skill. Multitasking 2 demos at the same time will only lead you to be confused and maybe show the wrong customer the demo. So focus, deep work. If you, I wish this book is next on my list of things to do, but I've heard so many interviews by the author Cal Newport. It's called Deep Work. The book is called Deep Work. So that's not. If anybody wants to read it, let me know. Maybe we can read it together or something and share notes in the end. But being able to do deep work, being able to focus, is a much better skill than multitasking. You might have to handle multiple projects, multiple customers at the same time, but that's not to say it's multitasking. That's just single tasking or task switching. Being able to run a task for a prolonged period of time, just one task for a prolonged period of time, will enable you to be more effective, not efficient. Efficiency without effectiveness is useless. You could be efficient at the wrong thing. You want to be effective. Being able to focus will allow you to be more effective, and then you can move on and do the next project. The point is, you don't want to be dropping balls. So try to focus, do your thing, move on to the next one. The only time I've dropped balls was when I was trying to multitask. When I was working on one thing and then someone pings me and sends me a message on Teams or Slack or whatever it is, and instead of me working on the thing that I'm working on, I stop it and I go look at Teams and work on it. And then they ask me a bunch of stuff. I go on the internet, try to figure it out, and then I forgot what I was doing. And now the customer's unhappy because I forgot to send them a data sheet or whatever it is. Or my account manager's unhappy because I forgot to send them the part numbers that they were looking for. So if you see, that's kind of a concern of mine. If multitasking is on a job description and I go talk to them and they say, hey, are you good at multitasking? I'm like, no, I suck at multitasking. Multitasking does not exist. It's a myth. You suck at multitasking. And so I just don't like that. And hopefully people will take it off the job description, because it's not good. It's not a good skill. It's not even a skill. It's a waste of time. Okay, so that was a good rant. I appreciate you guys listening. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I'm not sure I enjoyed it, but it did take some, I guess, some pressure off my chest because these things have been bugging me. I've seen this. I've talked to people who are new to sales engineering and I ask them like, hey, what's your plan? What do you want to do? And it's like, I want to learn coding. Like, but why? You have a professional services team that does the coding for you. Why are you learning coding? Oh, there isn't really a good answer. Or people, it's like, I need to do public speaking. It's like, you're never going to do public speaking. If you want to do it, do it. It's fun. Go enjoy it. And it might look good on your resume, but it's not actually going to help you become a better SE, because public speaking is all about preparing stuff ahead of time and then going to talk. Sales engineering, you're going to have discussions. They're going to ask questions that you didn't think about. Maybe improv would be better than public speaking. So try that. Answering technical questions. Yeah, well, we need to answer technical questions, but more importantly, we need to be able to ask technical questions. We're never going to persuade anybody in our life. We're going to show them that the product is the best fit for them. So, and we don't do that by persuading. We do that by demoing, by showing, by answering questions. And then multitasking, I've talked about enough. So let's just call it a day for now. Show notes are going to be on WeTheSalesEngineers.com/show 170. And that's it for me. So actually, I'd love to hear your feedback about this. Do you disagree with me? Because a lot of you might disagree with me especially about presenting. Let me know. What are your thoughts? Comment on the show notes page, on the LinkedIn page, on the Twitter page, whatever page you find which has that information. Comment. Let me know. Hit me up on LinkedIn if you haven't done that and you want to chat about this. I'm happy to chat about it because, I'm passionate about sales engineering. It seems it's a weakness. All right, guys, I will see you next time. Thank you for listening. With that, this is Ramsey signing off.